Welcome to this week's issue of City View. I'm joined today by our esteemed Superintendent of Schools, Rick DeCristofaro, and we're actually at the studios at North Quincy High School. And shortly we're going to be joined by the principal here, Rob Shaw. So Superintendent, we're doing a little different format with our show. We're trying to get out in the field more. And certainly what we do in local government, there's nothing more important other than persons being safe in their home and their person, is educating young people.
Yeah.
And I know you have an incredible team. I know we have an incredible system of principals and teachers and staff that come together to give every child that opportunity. So I want to welcome you to the show, and maybe you know, we're almost halfway through the school season, really, or the school session, and you know, talk a little bit about. I know this great preparation, get ready for opening, and then you hit some issues along the way. But let's talk a little bit. How many kids do we have in the school system? And
at this time, about 9,600 students. You know, so and it's about where it's been for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe just up a bit.
Yep.
But all that planning is all about, as you know, all about the students. You hear it all the time, and you speak of it all the time. You know, making sure that we have enough teachers, because our class size is the most important. So that's where we begin our planning. Of course, you know, the budget that comes from your office. We make sure that we have that class size that we need. We make sure that we have our special education funding that is so needed for so many of our families. So, you know, working with many at City Hall, primarily your office, you know, I think we get very well prepared for the beginning. You always get a little concerned, like, oh, let's hope it's the best year ever, you know. Right. But we're doing really some great things for families, and, you know, obviously, in particular our students, and have staff that have been so good. You know, again, the funding has been something that's been very supportive.
so let's talk about that for a minute. So we're a system of you just said about 9,600 kids, 2 high schools, 5 middle schools, 11 elementary,
11 elementaries,
with a pre-K, early ed.
Pre-kindergarten program of about 300 3 and 4-year-olds.
And this week, it'll be after, I guess, when this show is shown on various sources. We're going to be doing the topping off ceremony at Sterling Middle School, which has been talked about for a long time. As you know, we've lived through the new Quincy High, the new Central Middle School. We've done a lot of improvements to a lot of the buildings, and we'll see some of those as we walk through this building. But pretty exciting for the neighborhoods of Southwest Quincy.
You know, it really is. And, you know, we talk to the kids all the time. We talk about a junior building committee that they created of students that are so excited about a new school. And some may not see that because they'll be at Quincy High School or North Quincy High School, but just want to know so much more about how this is happening. And so they're working, you know, tremendously with bond construction, with AI3, with PCA 360 project managers. You know, so that's exciting. But going back, you know, Quincy High, there was a little bit at the beginning of too much talk, you know, and not enough action. The Quincy High School is gorgeous. Central Middle School, so very nice. And Sterling is just another piece of this school system that offers our kids, you know, some incredible opportunities. So we're really looking forward to that. And what we've done here at North Quincy, when I say we, it was mostly you that really has a vision. I mean, I have a vision for a lot of things, but I think the vision for this school, its spaces, which were created way back in 1978, 79, I think the spaces that we have used here with Rob's help, with so many of your staff has helped, that it's really a different school in a way, in a lot of ways, you know.
Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to the leadership in the buildings, the teachers in the classroom.
Correct.
However, we also recognize over the years that the buildings were in tough shape. So, you know, and I know we've had a lot of discussions about these things over the year. And one of my roles as mayor and chairman of the school committee is to provide as many resources, but also to go out and leverage our resources with state and federal resources. And we've had great success and great partnerships with our legislative delegation. Been phenomenal. The state treasurer's been phenomenal. We've got great support on all these things. So it's really important that we continue to do that, so that, you know, what happens in the classroom is not disrupted by leaky roofs and drafty windows. And that was an issue in many of these in the circumstances. So we're glad to get that in. But the important aspect is really what goes on in the classroom.
No, you're right. You're right. And it's about the culture. And the culture is primarily in the classroom. So it's the staff that we have, the staff that we've hired, is our professional development that we work so hard at. So our teachers are connected with each other. Yeah. They're also connected with higher ed institutions to bring in different ideas. And when we hire people from all over the country that want to come to Quincy, not only to teach, but to live, yeah. You know, that's a tremendous benefit, because the investment in their professional development, their professionalism, really is so helpful every single day to our kids in classrooms.
Well, that speaks to another issue. You talk about investment. When we invest in our schools, and our schools are doing well, property values go up. So it's an important aspect in the community as well. Now, you've been at it a long time. You started as a teacher in the system. Yeah. We won't hold it against that you come from Quincy Point, the other end of the city.
God's country.
I knew your dad. He was a Ward 2 counselor for many years, a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. Your mom, a great lady, so you come from great stock. But you've come through the system, so all these years, and you've been superintendent, you're probably going to be one of the longest reigning superintendents that we've seen. But talk about some of the changes you've seen in your tenure. I mean, it's different today than it was.
It really is. I mean, it's a full change in staff. I mean, there are not many people, I guess, my age, you know, that are still around. There are a few, but it's the young people coming in, you know, that have made an incredible difference in programs. Yeah. You know, you figure when I went to school long time ago, you know, there weren't all these programs to help so many kids. Yeah. And I think that's probably the greatest challenge we have, but it's met not only within our budget, but also within the expertise of our teachers.
So it's more one-on-one, meeting the needs of the kid.
Yes, yeah. Where before, you know, it was, you know, you paint everyone pretty much with the same brush. Yeah. Now, our education focuses so much on the needs of each and every child. It's much more of a unique education than it's ever been. So that's probably the biggest change that I've seen over the years. And the expertise is unbelievable. The teachers that we're hiring, and they don't have to be young, by the way. We have a lot of teachers that come in from the private sector that do an outstanding job. Yeah. But they come in with a passion that is really, it's just great to see.
Well, it's also much more difficult and challenging, because the changes that you've seen, the requirements from the federal level, the state level, whether it's MCAS, EduVal, Common Core, all these things thrown at you and the system and the teachers, and the teachers continue to, along with their leadership in the buildings, get it done.
That's right, and the biggest challenge, I think, administratively, is to making sure our teachers understand that it's not this too shall pass. Right. These are things that will be sustained, and there are improvements in their classroom, so therefore there needs to be improvement in our professional development, and that's what we work so very hard on.
The other obvious change in the system even since I've been in school, and that's the demographics of the city. The commitment to education hasn't changed, and I would suggest that people coming to our city in part because of the great school system. Yeah. But that also poses some issues with there's so many different primary languages spoken. Yeah. It's also an issue of more resources dedicated to make sure every kid has that.
Exactly. I mean, just translating, you know, for very special meetings with parents, you want to make sure that you communicate in the very respectful way with every family that you deal with. And that's really an incredible goal that we have. But not only our EL students, it's every family. I mean, that's really why we're here. And I don't think this city, certainly the school system, has ever lost its focus on making sure we're not here about ourselves. It's always about our students. It's always about the families. How can we support? Not only educationally, but many times if families have issues above and beyond that educational piece, it does have a connection to our classroom, to our teachers, and to their learning. So we're always thinking about students and families first, always.
As it should be.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up and get joined by Mr. Shaw shortly. I know that we're upon the holiday season, and you were conducting the symphony the other night of the 'Tis the Season concert. But another great event that involves a lot of our community partners. Maybe we can talk a little bit about before we sign off on that program.
Yeah, Mayor, and thanks for your support on that. And you know, we have close to 100 partners. You know, and again, we get those partners not only from the school system, but from your office as well, but from partners seeking other partners and saying, hey, come on into the Quincy Public Schools. What can you offer? So we have all these different pathways that we have. but it brings significant funding for our mini grants, where we give 85 to 90 mini grants for our teachers. Small grants, but the teachers are so appreciative. 'Tis the season, you know, 750 to 800 people at that event with the QSO, and that's been sustained for 17 years.
So sometimes it's money, sometimes it's in kind.
Exactly.
Small business, large business.
Yeah, we design a pathway for them. We meet with them and say, okay, what can you do for us, and what can we do in turn? What can we do for you? A lot of wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you sign off this part by saying whatever you want, wishing people happy holidays.
Wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, and I hope that it's peaceful and full of hope, and we'll see you when you get back. Very good.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much,
it.
Mayor. Thanks.
Welcome back to City View. We're now joined by the principal of North Quincy High School, Rob Shaw. Mr. Shaw has been a North Quincy grad. He's been a teacher, a department head. He's really, truly moved up the ladder, or chain, as you will, here at North Quincy High School, a proud graduate, and does an outstanding job here at North Quincy High School. And we're in the studio of kind of a new program here that we've been able to add for the kids. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about what goes on in here, Mr. Shaw, and the program.
Sure. This is our film and television production studio, formerly the Black Box Theater for many years before this. And when our drama program had sort of graduated from smaller scale plays in here to bigger musicals in the auditorium behind us, this space was sort of available for something new and exciting. So a film and TV production program with control room, editing room, classroom, of course, and what it naturally needed was a studio. So we sort of agreed this could be a good use of this space. With your investment, you see the equipment around us that fills the space, and now at this point, second year of implementation of the courses. So students now in their first and/or second year taking courses in film and TV production. And this is very much a part of what they do.
I think it's important to point out to folks, too, that this was a result of some of that Comcast funding we get from the city, which is to be used technology, cable-related, education-related, and this is what was a perfect fit for the mission of what the Comcast. So how many kids would be involved in
Sure. Last year
program?
we had probably somewhere around 40 students, and that I would put somewhere up over 60 at this point. In its first couple of years, we've sort of let students who have expressed an interest take the course as an elective, whether they're grade 9, 10, 11, or 12, and of course students who are younger hopefully stay with it. It's now recently approved as a Chapter 74 vocational program, so that means it becomes a pathway for 3 years worth of coursework for students. So as we have each of those sort of cohorts come through, that number will go up as students take it from that freshman introductory course on up to next year, the 2018-19 school year, students taking their third year of a film and television production course.
So part of I know we're going to go into the control room, maybe we can walk ahead to the control room, but as I understand it, the kids are getting some experience in doing this, and then they're getting involved in filming some of the activities right here in the school, whether it's a play or a game or...
They are. The control room that we'll see in just a moment, it feeds directly into our gymnasium down the hall and the auditorium going the other direction.
Okay.
And be able to see in just a moment probably a live shot from the gymnasium with an old graphic from last winter up on there. But this is the control room, formerly an office, I forget which, but when we installed this program, this became a good place to put the director's chair, so to speak, in the coordination. So as you mentioned, we can go into the gym with a stationary camera, which can be manipulated from in here, installed above one of the bleachers, and then send a camera crew in as well to get other angled shots during a basketball game, a volleyball match. We're close to having something similar set up in the auditorium next door as well, so we can do speeches, presentations, choir shows, band shows, drama club musicals from there as well.
Which is pretty awesome because the kids are getting real live experience on how to operate the equipment and edit a show and all the bells and whistles.
One thing I've been impressed by is you see students who are on this side of the camera, being interviewed or performing, and now they have a taste of the other side of it, behind the camera or at a director's chair or manipulating any of this equipment.
Well, I got to say, when I go and we do Quincy High, I'm going to have to ask Larry Taglieri to wear a red shirt because you wear a blue shirt in reference to... I think it's because the superintendent probably told you to wear blue. Is that what it was?
He may have.
Let's head down towards the gymnasium if we could. obviously that's the center for a lot of athletic activity,
It
but
is.
also rallies and other things I'm sure happen in there.
For rallies, we had our Thanksgiving Day rally just a couple of weeks ago, and our broadcasting and film and television crew put together some great footage of it.
Excellent.
Using that very control room, plus the cameras that were in the gym itself that day, and put together a pretty good montage that we showed to the kids the Monday they returned from their Thanksgiving
Oh, that's
break.
great.
So it's pretty
Oh,
nice.
they must enjoy that. So what year did you get out of North?
1993.
Okay. I was a little older, 81. I think we were the first class to graduate with the addition completed. There were double sessions. There were a lot of issues
Right.
at the time. But this gym, as part of the building, was pretty amazing because you could break it down into 4 courts. It's got the full court, volleyball, all kinds of other possibilities because of the size of it, the space of it. So athletics is an important part of the high school experience. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Sure. We're about a week and a half into a new athletic season, the winter season. In fact, our girls basketball team here last night, boys basketball coming up this weekend. We're expecting good things from those programs. Obviously, in
And
the winter,
we have now a dedicated AD once again for each high school.
we do. Athletic director whose office is just on the other side of this gym, who coordinating all of that, leading all of that here is a vital part of every single one of those programs, leading it and monitoring their progress and whatnot. I think it is exciting. In the winter sports season, the gymnasium, of course, is kind of the hub of activity in the winter, particularly with basketball. And
I think the superintendent would agree that athletics was an important part of the high school experience. And as you know, I've had 3 recent graduates from the school, and I certainly know one of them probably wouldn't have got through school without athletics, Tom Jr. So it was an important part of his life, and
for
it
many of
kept
them it
him
is.
focused on the classroom as well, because it forces one to be disciplined because you're going to be passing your courses
That's
and
right.
paying attention. So it's
And some of the skills are transferable. You know, the leadership that you learn being a member of a team or leading a team pays off in the classroom as well, or initiative that you take in a classroom also pays off as a member of a team. So they go hand in hand.
okay. We're gonna have the superintendent get back in the picture. We want him to take a shot and see if he can get it. I heard he was a great basketball player. We'll see here. Now, folks, you should know he hasn't any time to practice, so this is cold. Oh, he still got it. So I know along the top of the gym we got a lot of history as well as all the teams, some league titles and pretty cool stuff. I know when you think about, when you look at some of the years, I mean, just looking up there, wrestling one year, but it was 1938 that they
Sure.
won the champ. So
Sure,
a lot of history here.
Yep.
A lot of history. And it's a great facility. I know that you have your rallies, and this is a place you can get the whole student
Rally
body
here. We, of course, had the Massachusetts Teacher of the Year last year here at Ms. Picarsi at North Quincy High. And on the day she was announced, the late commissioner was here, of course, to join us for a event here with all of our staff and students in the gym to make it kind of special for her and the school. And it was this gym where we were able to house that.
Proud moment for the school
Sure
and
was.
for the city. Absolutely. Well, maybe we can cut through the lobby and so. How are you, pal? Good to see you.
How are you? All right, how you doing?
So now we're passing the Hunt Street entrance, and that was always obviously one of the 2 entrances of the building. But now it has more focus and more importance because we're directly across from the new facilities. And I know that we'll have some footage on Creedon Field as we
Yep.
talk about this. Tell me what that means to the school, having that option.
So 2 things back there. One, as you mentioned, the athletic field. This fall, for example, you know, a 4 o'clock soccer game for either myself, staff, or students was right out the back door, which is important for us if you want to be able to have a decent crowd and some support. And for the athletes themselves, it's get out of class, come down to the gym, change up, and go out the back door. And there's your.
So the regular
there's
phys
your
ed programs could go right out there.
They
because,
can. They have. ROTC has used it for some of their physical fitness aspects of their program. The other part, of course, is parking. Eventually, we get a lot more traffic of foot traffic in and out of this entrance and exit now in the morning and the afternoon. Is because students are parking back there and staff, for that matter.
Which is
large
huge
numbers.
because you were jammed into a postage stamp size
Sure were.
lot, so it gives gives it more of a campus feel.
It does.
It certainly gives you more opportunity for
does.
parking, for play and use. And I know I spent a few days in the cafeteria here. Mm-hmm. I know that the high school experience is far more than just sports too. And I know we started talking about the technical program, broadcasting and so forth, but the school offers an awful lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And I always say my favorite night of the year as chairman of the school committee is graduation. And just to see these kids moving on to that next phase of their life, whether it's the service or work world or colleges all over the country, all the big name colleges these kids get into. And that's a testimony to the teachers, to the commitment of the student, and to your leadership here. Talk about some of the programs in high school here that North offers that, we get people out there that choose to go to a private school for whatever reason. I think they're wasting their money. We got two outstanding high schools.
We do.
Talk a little about some of the programs.
We do.
We'll head toward the
You've got
atrium.
your traditional, you're not going to get any better in terms of your English, math, science, history, foreign languages. Your core parts of a high school curriculum are here and strong with some great teachers, great leaders leading those departments.
And you have the ability, people can really pick the area of learning. I mean, because not everyone's in the same mix. You've got people that are more gifted that could be in an advanced program, and so
one thing
you
about
can
high
adjust.
School, you can specialize. A student, as you mature, get older, you realize I'm a scientist or a budding scientist, or I'm a writer, or literature is my thing. You can take AP courses in one thing but not another, for example, because that's where you found your passion, and that'll be supported. And
the reality is, not everybody is good at everything, right?
That's right. There are some, and they do very well, and a lot of them are here.
Not me.
A lot of them are here. Then elective programs in everything from, as we saw, film and television, visual design and communication, your more traditional business electives, accounting, marketing, business management, all offered here. Art and photography as well. There's certainly enough here to cater to any set of interests that really any student could come here with.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. So, as a high school principal, what's your biggest challenge today?
Biggest challenge today, I think. I think the superintendent and you were talking about all of those, sort of federal and statewide initiatives, and trying to keep a focus on all of them at once, maintain an emphasis on each one without sacrificing one of the others, is a tough balancing act. You're introducing a new way to evaluate teachers at the same time that a new Common Core curriculum is coming on board from Massachusetts, at the same time as something else. So it's a matter of being able to prioritize without sacrificing too much from different places, and maintaining people's attention to all of these different areas. And I sort of look at my role as sort of choreographing as much of that as I can, so that the people in the classroom can do what they do best, which is to teach and coach and advise extracurricular clubs.
We talk about it at the school committee too, and superintendent, and I'm sure you folks all the time, and that sometimes at different government level agencies, they want every kid to fit neatly in every little bucket or box. And it's not true. We're all different. We all have different talents. We all have different gifts. Some of us pick up early on. Some bloom or blossom later. So we obviously try to expose them to everything. But the reality is, we're still trying to instill the love of learning for that kid, so that as they move on, they take that with them. Now I know we're in the atrium of honor, which connects the original building to the whole addition. And this was dedicated a few years back. I remember when we were here, we had carpet here, and we used to spend a lot of time in here in between classes. Peter Chisholm was my principal, and Eileen Feeney was the assistant principal at that time. A lot of history there, great people, great dedication. But we did dedicate this a number of years ago to those folks that attended North. Some didn't graduate because they went into the service. So we remember them in this. We have 2 Medal of Honor recipients. We have prisoners of war. I mean, we have Dick Stratton and Alan Bredno. Alan Bredno, unfortunately, has that distinction of being one of the longest serving POW in the nation's history in Vietnam. So this is a great tribute, I think, and a reminder to our young people. It's a great teaching opportunity that, things just didn't happen today. We just didn't get here today with all these opportunities, resources, and freedoms without some sacrifice. So it's truly an honor to have this here as part of
the students do look at these things, and they ask questions about them, and they, we, as you know, were able to have Captain Stratton here last spring, which brings him, beyond just the panel on the wall to a person in the front of the auditorium where the story comes alive even more. And now students who saw him and met him take more meaning from that panel up there. Earlier this week, we had some history classes down here for a presentation by a Korean War veteran. And this made sense as the perfect setting in which to do that presentation.
Sure.
And it was a pretty powerful thing.
Well, Rob, I want to thank you for your service, your leadership at North, and I'll give you the opportunity to wish folks at home any greeting you'd like.
We do, absolutely. It's the time of year for that. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and of course an enjoyable holiday break. We'll see you back here in January.